I'm a landscape architect, urbanist, based out of Delhi. I thank iDAC for inviting me to give this presentation. We as a firm, we work a lot in different cities. These are some of the cities where we have worked. And we understand whenever we go to any city, each city has its own, grain in terms of how the built environment is, how the contemporary features come in, how the natural features come in, and how the city is interrelating to each. Recently I had gone to Srinagar, and then iDAC called me for this presentation, so I thought that why don't I document the city by itself. I had been to Srinagar around when I was a schoolgirl, around 30 years back. It was 1989. Some memories of what it was. This was the first furniture that we had bought from Srinagar. So if you look at the city, when you go there and you ask which are the places that we would like to see, so mostly people say Dal Lake, Shalimar Gardens, Nishad Bagh, Chashme-Shahi. So these are the few places that mostly the tourists go. Now if you look at the city historically, so what we like to do is explore the city in its entirety, what it was, how it has become. Now if you look at the different rules of Srinagar, there were many rules in which different religions affected it. Now during this time, Buddhism came into the city. Can I get some silence, please? Okay, so some of the buildings which were there. Now, this whole area, Kashmir, is a valley, and Srinagar is kind of in the center. This city basically was also linked to the Silk Route. And where did the people come from? They came from the Khyber Pass. So, see, the thing is that what fascinated me about this city is basically so many cultures, kind of how did they intermix. So I got interested in looking at the history of the city. So during the Silk Route time, the Shami dynasty came, and these were some of the rulers. And they brought, especially the Badshah, the great Sultan, he brought a lot of, the Kashmiriyat where the Muslims and the Hindus lived together. So this was the time, before this was Buddhism, and this was the time when the Islam came into Kashmir. Now, there was this Sufi scholar called Hamdani, who kind of gave the inspiration of a city, of a place where you can have different religions kind of harmoniously staying together. So the Silk Route, what it brought to the city of Srinagar was a lot of crafts, like the pashmina, the carpets, the different type of woodwork that came into. So from Bukhara, the carpets, from Khotan, the silk fabric. So it was basically a myriad this thing of different typologies of crafts and architecture which came in. These are some pictures from my friend Manish Kulati, who had gone to Kashmir, and this beautiful pictures he had taken of the houseboats, the crafts, and how the wood was integrated into the architecture. Now, not just the monuments, even the residential architecture of the buildings had that, the local touch, and it was earthquake resistant. And the Dhaji Dwari construction was basically to have stability for the structures. Now, if you look at the various, even the Islamic architecture of Kashmir, it's very different from what we see in other places. Like this is the Jama Masjid in Lahore and Delhi, whereas this is the Jamia Masjid of Srinagar, where the inspiration is from the Buddhist pagoda. So this was like very interesting, and even the Khanka Mosque, similar kind of typology, which is very Kashmiri. Another monument. Now, even in one structure, you had different styles, kind of interspersed. So this was the, the Shamir brought in this kind of syncretic architecture, and then the Mughals came, and during this time, a lot of these gardens were made. So if you look at the various dynasties, the Shami, the Chak, the Mughals, then the Afghans came, the Sikhs came, and then what happened was the Britishers came in and defeated the Sikhs, and there was kind of a vacuum. That is where Gulab Singh of this Dogra dynasty, he bought Kashmir. Now, this was very interesting because when I was doing the research that how can you buy a place, so he bought it for 75 Nanak Shahi rupees or something like that. So after that, they were very good rulers, but in terms of architecture, not too much happened. But then in 1947, Pakistan tried to take that whole Kashmir over, and then you know what happened later. So coming to the planning of the city, this is what is, the earlier grain of the city. The Dal Lake was there, and all around it were lagoons. And the city was kind of settled around the Jhelum. Now, if you look at what it was earlier and similar scale, the spread of the city has kind of taken over, and the lagoons which were there have turned into, maybe this Brari Nambal was actually a lake, a lagoon. Now it's become a lake. But during that time also, there was a system of gates and all which they made, in which there are lock gates at Dal. Then after that, Jhelum also has a few lock gates. So the whole system was very scientific. And this is one of the only cities in our country where the whole development has kind of happened around the waterways. Now, Jhelum was the central waterway of the city. And it influenced all the, basically the city was looking towards the river instead of, away from it. And when you have the river in the center, you need to cross it. So the various bridges that happened over the period of time. So the green ones are the, the old bridges, and the new ones. Okay, so the first bridge is the Zero Bridge, which is the closest to the hills, and it's got the best view, though it's not one of the traditional bridges. This is how it looks. So what I did was, when I went to Srinagar, right now the Jhelum ride is not on, but luckily I had the opportunity to go on this ride, and it was really life-changing. So this was where, from the Pirzu Island, we took the boat. So this is the location. And then this is the city grain, where you have different types of buildings. So this is near the CBD area, the Lal Chowk, and the grain of the city. So you have more open spaces, and with the city grain coming. And then suddenly you have this mosque cropping up. There were various bridges. This was one of the first bridges, Amira Kadal. And there was a building next to it, which was the Shergadi Palace, which now looks like this. So it was burned down. So now, recently they are thinking of redeveloping this place. Then as we move further, what I was really excited about was how the temples and the mosques were coming so close together and creating a very interesting texture to the city. Then this was the area where what do you call it, the Hindus used to live, when it was so, wherever you see the areas which are kind of unkempt and all, so you see this kind of look where it's, it needs to be redeveloped. Then the temples came in, and then how the ghats used to open. So this is one of the colleges which was built. So all of these layers kept on coming. So it was like a crescendo, as it was a 45-minute ride for me, but it was like an unraveling of this whole experience of different things coming one after another. So then further on, I came to the heart of the old city area, where, so this was Habba Kadal, and then Fateh Kadal. So the Fateh Kadal is where the Dal Lake again joins through the Babdam Lake into the Jhelum River. And this is one of the most famous mosques for that Sufi saint which was made right very close to Fateh Kadal. So again, the grain changes out here. It becomes very rich in texture. Near the old city, the Jama Masjid is there, and the Jama Masjid itself is very much integrated to the city grain. So it was very interesting to see how the monuments were also integrated. So this was a shop colonnade, and it was getting integrated with the city beyond. The wooden bridges, various tombs and all were there. Again, like, suddenly if you see this kind of a place, that means that these are the abandoned buildings which were there. Then further on. So the, the various tapestry of buildings that were coming in, it was like creating a confusion in my mind, and I told my people as soon as I went back to office that plot it, and then we will, actually it's still work in progress in which I want to, mark out the dates and how the tapestry kind of got more textured. So how the different, so these two mosques are there, then the temple comes in, and then how you see this thing from the person's eye view level. So looking back, this is the tapestry of Srinagar, which I feel we should be proud of, and we should look at our cities from a new light and, try to celebrate these areas. So just by, so why I did this study of Srinagar? Stand anywhere in the old city or simply float on its lake of paradise, one feels the fragrance of Bukhara, the streetscapes of Isfahan, the recurring motifs of Jian, and the immeasurable presence of Sadashiva. Srinagar permeates the senses, expanding one's notion of land or being. This was said by Rajiv Sethi. Thank you.